I am really trying to get a grill. Like, I feel like it would be fly. I feel like it would be a perfect addition to my grill that I already have. I can take a picture like this and like look like a thug. I don't know. I just really want a grill. I don't know. I might make that happen. Who knows? We'll see. Hey y'all, it's your girl Kimberly P. Welcome back to my channel KP Sparks. If you're new here or you just want to hear my intro again, my aim is to encourage you to vigorously go after your passions with a sprinkle of tech. Don't call it a comeback. Don't call it a comeback. Don't call it a comeback. You know what I'm saying? Your girl has to brainstorm a few things and we here. Just know we here, okay? Just know. If you know me very well, you know that I listen to podcasts every single day. Like, there probably is not a day that I don't listen to podcasts. But like I said before, I am always listening to podcasts, and I found some new entertaining, fun, enjoyable, edifying podcasts that I would love to share with you all. I did do a video like this I think it was last year. I did a video a little bit over a year ago, and I'm going to link it up in the card section so you can see my initial podcast list when I first started listening to podcasts. But right now I'm just going to cover only the new podcasts that I've been listening to. Shout out to you. Shout out to the Greater Podcast. Shout out to Convo With Moe. Shout out to Side Hustle Pro. Shout out to all y'all. I still got love for y'all, but we covering the new people in the game. All right. I still got KP hold it down for you. I don't know what time. Okay, but I'm holding it down for you, okay? But before I continue, I did team up with my girl Mo on her podcast, A Convo With Mo, recently, and we were talking about being on your period. It was a really real, candid conversation, and my cousin Kibo Betts was on it as well. So make sure you tune into that before you continue watching this video, okay? And if you're a guy, don't think that you shouldn't watch it. You have sisters in your lives. I mean, later on in life you might have a daughter that you might want to be able to talk to her about this, or understand, not talk to her, but understand at least what she's going through. Okay, now let's get into the new list of things. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? I don't think you're ready for this jelly. Okay, I don't know why I sang that, but let's get into the new list. Okay, ciao. Hi Azum, have you been drinking your water? Have you been minding your business? Have you been greasing your scalp? Have you been moisturizing your edges? Have you been doing your keto plan? How y'all doing? If you're familiar with who I'm talking about right now, you know that I am talking about the Women Involved podcast by Sarah Jakes Roberts. I love this podcast so much, and I actually just came back from her Women Involved conference in Denver, Colorado. Man, when I tell you guys, that conference felt like a true sisterhood. So for the Women Involved podcast, she goes on Facebook Live, and she's not by herself. She's accompanied with a bunch of other co-hosts that she likes to call the delegation, which is basically us that tune in and talk to her as she's chatting over topics that are happening around the world. She has different segments in this podcast. She starts off with Rescue Eve, where she talks about people that kind of do crazy things and whether we should rescue them or not. And then the second part of it is basically a Hail Mary, Hail Joseph, where she honors people that do amazing things in the community. She wraps up the podcast with an advice time where she answers DMs and gives advice based upon her, faith and her own knowledge and experience to whoever DM her, which I think is pretty cool because she's at 1.5 mil, I believe. So for her to actually like go through her DMs, I don't know about her, but I would be overwhelmed. And I only have 1,000 and some followers on Instagram. So shout out to her. But then she ends off the podcast giving a snack, which is basically a sermon, a short little sermon, a word in season to her delegation, her people that listen to the podcast, so that you guys can, hold on to a word, even just listening to a podcast. The reason why I love this podcast so much is because Sarah Jakes is actually hilarious. Like I stated before, her phrases are hilarious. Ciao, have you been minding your business? Have you been drinking water? It's just hilarious, and I find myself saying it all the time now. That's how I talk. That's like a greeting. That's how I start my Insta stories. It's like a greeting. Instead of saying hello, I'd be like, have you been minding your business? Because I'm a proud member of Mind Your Business Ministries, okay? All right. In her last episode, I thought it was so adorable that she brought on her daughter Mackenzie. And Mackenzie, I mean, homegirl is like 10 or 8 years old, and she was spitting that fire about, you know, letting go of friends and friendship. And I just love everything about that podcast. You're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry, maybe. I mean, in a good way. Not to say you won't cry out of like pain or anything like that, but cry out of like, wow, like that spoke to me. And people are really open about their struggles and what they're going through in Sarah Jakes Roberts' DM. With her answering those questions, I'm like, wow, like for me to think that I'm going through things, it just literally minimizes my situation where I feel like I'm like struggling or anything like that. And overall, Sarah Jakes Roberts, her testimony is just crazy. I saw her in person last year at Summit 21, but I didn't really follow her. I just knew that I wanted to continue following her because she's probably one of the most well-spoken people I've seen in person. So I wanted to follow her and know more about her. I didn't even know she was TD Jakes' daughter at the moment. I'm even listening to her book on Audible now. That's how much I love her content. The branding of everything that she does is so excellent, and I love you, girl. If you're ever watching this, I don't know if you ever want to watch this, but just know I love you, Sarah. I'm part of the delegation. I do grease my scalp and moisturize my edges and drink my water in my business. Okay. Righteous and ratchet and righteous and ratchet and righteous and ratchet. Da 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 da. Cheerio. Oh, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. It could be whatever, cuz. It could be whatever. It could be whatever, cuz. I memorized these common phrases from these podcasts. Please don't go on me in the comment section. Thank you so much. Sign management. The next podcast that I want to go over is Righteous and Ratchet, and this podcast is hosted by Doughboy and Kev on Stage. You guys, literally when I drive home on Wednesdays, this is my routine from work to listen to Righteous and Ratchet. I know that regardless of how sleepy I am, I'm in for a good laugh. If you don't know, Kev on Stage is a hilarious comedian, and I think he gained his fame from YouTube, if I'm correct. Yeah, he gained his fame from YouTube. I followed him on Instagram, but I didn't realize how funny he was until I started listening to his podcast. He's very clean, and that's what I love about his jokes. Very clean comedy. So Doughboy is the more ratchet side, while Kevin on Stage is the more righteous side. But anyways, it merges together very well. And what I love about their podcast is that they're really open about their experiences in the game. Doughboy, I believe he was a rapper as well. He's a comedian, and they are like literally best friends. They talk about topics from Doughboy being a recovering alcoholic to Kev going to therapy with his sons, from him traveling around a lot, and he actually cried on the pod, and I was just very surprised. They're really open and transparent. They also go over different hot topics as well. So they've went over When They See Us. Kev failed miserably, talking about Kev going on tour and not seeing as much people as he anticipated. Aisha Curry, these are older episodes. R. Kelly, they go over everything and they share their opinion. Nipsey Hussle, they go over everything and they share their opinion about it. The thing is, neither of them are big, but they're literally always saying fat jokes, and I think that's what makes it so hilarious. Because I grew up in a community where in the DMV we call it joning, or you go on somebody. It's hilarious when you catch somebody off guard and you just like roast them. I'm like, I cry listening to the podcast out of laughter. And I'm actually going to see Kev on Stage on tour this Sunday, actually. I even forgot. But yeah, I'm going to see Kev on Stage, and I'm so excited about it. And that's how you know these podcasts have really been a part of my life, because I'm actually like going to see these people, and they're really like, they're part of my weekly routine. Third podcast that I am currently in love with is The Love Hour, and this is a podcast with Mrs. Kev on Stage and Kev on Stage. And as you can probably guess by the title, The Love Hour is about the love between Kev on stage and his wife. One thing I love about this podcast is how transparent they are, and they don't have to, but they're transparent so that we can learn from what they've learned from already. They got married at a pretty young age. They were dating when they were teenagers. They got married around the age of 21. So they've been married for, I think this year made it their 15-year mark, which is amazing. Because honestly, in my realm of life, outside of people around me, it's hard to see successful marriages that are past the 10-year mark, which is crazy, but that's just what it is and what it ain't. So Mrs. Kev on stage, she has like different challenges, and I'm not married right now, but Shawty is trying to learn as much as she can about marriage. All right, you gotta be ready for your blessing for when it comes. So Mrs. Kev on stage even talks about her insecurities on how she didn't like her skin color or the way that she looked like, and how she had to grow into that, and just interesting arguments they go through as a married couple. Kev is super obnoxious on this podcast, I'm not gonna lie, but it's a good balance because Melissa is like the opposite kind of. So I just think it's entertaining, and if you're married, hey, why not tune into this so you can learn from them. If you haven't been married as long, there's always wisdom to learn from people that have been through seasons that you've been through, and they also have kids, so they talk about parenting and what they learn from their experience with parenting. How Married Are You is another marriage podcast that I listen to gain wisdom from Belief and Yvette, and I feel like this podcast more so allows me to have insight on what it looks like to leave a legacy for my family. One thing that I love about Belief and Fatherhood, which is my favorite YouTube channel, shout out to you, Belief. The reason why he started his YouTube channel is for his kids to have something to look at when they get older. So just once again ties back into leaving a legacy, and it makes me even view myself like, wow, I'm gonna be a mom one day in Jesus' name. Like, I'm gonna be a wife one day in Jesus' name. So what does that look like? Eventually I'll be a mom, but I never really like digested the fact that I will be a mom. Like, okay, what are the things? I don't need to know everything right now, of course, but like, it's cool to see myself and accept that by seeing it through how they're successfully learning. I just think listening to podcasts is a great way for me to learn and get my gears, you know, running in my head as I'm driving home. That's the majority of the time that I listen to podcasts, when I'm driving home and then when I'm cooking. So shout out to How Married Are You. So hopefully I'm in focus. Let me tell y'all, my laptop be so loud and the mic picks up everything. I use my laptop as a monitor, but we just don't freehand things because I paid too many coins for this mic for it to be picking up my laptop fan. Okay? But let me continue. The next podcast I want to go over is the AXA podcast, and this podcast is another Kev on Stage podcast. If you're friends with me for approximately 0.2 seconds, you know that I just think it's so important to be heard. Like, if you're not hearing me, I don't think you really care for me. Is that extreme? If so, I meant it. So with that being said, the AXA podcast is a podcast featuring Kev on Stage and Big Irish J, and they interview people that you don't usually get an opportunity to talk to on a regular. They interviewed a child star. Let me tell y'all, the child star they interviewed was Kel Mitchell. I was obsessed with Kel when I was younger. It was to the point where I literally wrote, I was like 5. I was 5, y'all. I don't know where did I learn to do this? Anyways, I wrote Kel Mitchell a love letter, and I was 5. Praise God. But they interviewed a little person. The little person interview was actually hilarious. A police officer, a person in a wheelchair, a correctional officer. That was actually a really good episode. But you get to hear from them, hear their experiences, hear them debunk myths that people believe about them. And it's not to the point where you're trying to minister to them, although you can do that through your life and how you treat them as a person. It's literally for them to be heard, and I feel like that's just so important. in this society that we live in today, because sometimes people be like sensitive. Like if you want to voice your opinion, someone is offended automatically. So this is a great podcast that you can listen to and just hear out from someone that might be living a life that you don't necessarily live. So that's what I love so much about this podcast. The last podcast that I've been loving lately is the Niger Girls Talk podcast. I mean, allow me to, I'm from Sierra Leone, but I mean, the stuff that you be talking about, I mean, we Salon people go through it too. Yeah, Sierra Leone people go through it as well, but it's okay. I know you want to just focus on that Nigerian girls, but I'm loving the podcast though. I'm loving the podcast. The latest episode they had was actually on online dating, and I felt like that episode was so good. So good. In the Christian community, not a lot of people talk about their experiences with online dating. You can have bad experiences with random people that you meet in person or people that you meet on Tinder. It doesn't matter. I think you just always have to use discernment, to be honest, when you're getting to know someone. And it also broke the stigma that it's a negative thing or you're doing it because you're desperate. It's just another way to get to know people. Maybe you're going out every weekend, but the places that you're going to is just church, and you're going to women's fellowship, and you're going to you know, just those two places. You don't really get to meet, you know, guys. So I thought that episode was super dope, and keep doing what you're doing, girl. They also had episode, they also had an episode about weight gain and how it is in the African community. Child, I remember when I gained weight when I came back from college. That was a rough season. So all I can say is that these episodes are really relatable, especially if, I feel like, even though it's called Niger Girl Talks, they're really relatable to maybe even Caribbean people, but Africans in general. So I'm loving the podcast. Keep doing what you're doing, girl. All right, we done made it to the end of the video, y'all. We done made it to the end. If you made it this far, shout out to you. You get a gold star. I'm not a rapper, dude. If you love videos like this, let me know in the comment section down below. Or if you have any podcasts that I haven't mentioned, that I also did not mention in my previous video, that I'll put up in the card section, let me know in the comment section down below. And let me know why you love them, okay? Let's start a conversation down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I love y'all so much. Okay? See y'all later. Peace and blessings. Bye.